does.
Slides are up?
Yes, it does. Before I start, live.pitchcraft.app.com, use it and give us comments because we're longing for it. So, hi, my name is Keiretsu and I've been the CEO of Nasdaq's Tallinn Stock Exchange, Estonian Central Securities Depository, Estonian Service Industry Association, and now I run a startup called Funderbeam, refreshingly short. Last spring I was writing my MBA thesis on startups, and coming from the stock markets it was very difficult for me to find usable data. A bit here and there and nothing consolidated, standardized and comparable. And then I heard the same complaint from the financial sector and corporates trying to sneak in the startup market. But hey, they are the money, and they're not just money, they are the marketing experience and the exit possibility. Transparency and comparability were the missing pieces, and then I knew it's time for the startup market for stalkers. Please meet Funderbeam, the startup market where data and analytics rule. This is the future screen of the Funderbeam. The data is already there on the market, we just have to take it, put into matrices and analyze. The Funderbeam represents the future analytics. It's where the capital market is moving step by step. We're one step ahead. It's 60 billion market and we are on it. But before we launch Funderbeam, we need to engage the community. The Pitchcraft, the app you are using right now, it's the audience talkback app. You know, in pitching sessions, the crowd is very often reduced to a cattle, milk for laughs and applauses. And don't get me wrong, judges, we love you, but it would be nice to get feedback from the audience as well, so sophisticated audience. The Pitchcraft is ready. Those who run an event, use it. And Pitchcraft is a data feed for the Funderbeam. Roadmap will be ready by the end of the summer with a paid version of Pitchcraft. By the end of the autumn, we'll be ready with web database of Pitchcraft with pitching session data analytics, the event indices, data across the events. And next spring, then when we launch Funderbeam, our main business. And we learn revenue from paid accounts, we learn revenue from data and analytics sales for startups and investors, and also for the data vendors like Bloomberg and Reuters. And on the top of that, we will have tools how to make startup followers become their investors or trade in their shareholdings. And this is my team. It's sharp and seasoned team that will make Funderbeam happen. It took us less than a month to build the Pitchcraft. It will take us less than a year to build the Funderbeam. And we're here to introduce the Pitchcraft and the raise curtains on Funderbeam. Thank you.
Thank you. How much would I pay, since we organize about 60 events per year, how much would I pay for your Pitchcraft? But not that many pitching events. Yeah.
$1,000 per year. $1,000 per year.
Yeah, we're a nonprofit. We'll talk later. Okay. Question, Phil.
You want to start with me? So I apologize. I just didn't quite get it. So Funderbeam gives data analytics on startup companies. Is that what I heard? So you provide data analytics on startup companies.
Funderbeam is like a stock exchange of the startup companies, but we don't speak the startup community language, but we focus on the traditional financial sector, and we speak their language. We treat startup companies like stock exchange companies. They use the stock exchange tools. We have the indices of the market. We have the
So where's the data coming from? That's what I'm confused about. I didn't get that.
The data is coming from the Pitchcraft, and the data is coming from different event organizers, and we have to find a partnership either with the AngelList, with the Gust, with F6S, or with the other communities having the startup data.
But I mean, as an entrepreneur, I'm not going to give you my data. And so are you using sort of crowd opinion data? Is that the data that you're using? So it's just based upon what everybody puts into live pitch? Is that?
If you're a startup and you do the pitching, you have an account in the Pitchcraft, and you get the comments, you get the rating, you get the funding, and then the live web page starts to live. Then you see what's happening in the other pitching events. You can compare yourself with the others pitching wherever all around the world. Events can compare themselves, and when the pitching website is live, active, and startups are very much interested on growing their profile, getting more and more badges, then we'll know that we are ready for the Funderbeam.
So it's all about collecting data about sort of popularity at
Yes.
That's
Yes, but in the Funderbeam, we add more and more serious data, and startup starts provide more and more serious data. What they do, how many clients they have, it's like the typical stock exchange.
Right, but most startups don't like to share that data, right? So you're going to have real, incredible asymmetries and lying going on.
Yes, and that's why, and you asked the first question, whether we collect the data from the market sentiment. Yes, we do, because there's a data monitoring engines which collects different kind of words in the news, headlines, in the blogs, and then you can analyze the word, whether it's positive, negative, neutral, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's a biomed, and then you can put it in the analytics and put it into the website.
Okay, I'm sorry.
One other challenge is that mostly the most interesting startups, they do not sell any shares. They're private, and they do only go to certain investors and sell their shares. So who is then going to be your customer? Because it's no one actually doing valuations on that company, because it's not accessible.
If we start with the pitching grants, then those startups who pitch, they will be our customers. And when the data analytics they get from the Pitchcraft data website, it's good for them, then they go for the Funderbeam. And if the data analytics they get there, they're satisfied with, they're going to be customers of the Funderbeam.
So one of the things I hate when I'm in the audience is when a VC hears a 3-minute pitch and then tells you how you can change your business 180 degrees. So that's what I'm going to do to you right now. But this is with the caveat that I really don't know. It's just an idea. Startups don't have a lot of money. The event organizers for startup events don't have a lot of money. VCs have very tightly defined budgets. This is a tough market you're trying to sell into. And I think the core value you've got is you're bringing gamification techniques to startup events. It seems like it's a bigger market to take gamification to all corporate events. Like if you went to the corporate market, because they're struggling to make their events interesting. A lot of corporate events are just not that interesting. And it seems like you could sell gamification tools to large corporations running boring corporate conferences and make a hell of a lot more money than trying to sell them to startup event organizers. It's just an idea.
Yes, as we start now, we very much on the lean startup methodology, or we follow it. We start with the Pitchcraft, and then we see where we're heading. If we're heading to the Funderbeam, okay. If we're heading to the events organizers, that's not where we're actually planning to go. Then we'll sell it.
So in fact, you just stole my thunder, because what I see here is two businesses that you're trying to put together, and I hypothesized in my own head that you began with Pitchcraft and now you're moving to Funderbeam. I actually like Victor's idea for Pitchcraft, but in your 3 minutes, you never once mentioned the Jobs Act, the unleashing of crowd equity funding in America, the opportunity, a $200 billion capital market that's going to be potentially opened up. And I think for all of us who live in this space, angels and VCs together, we are probably each aware of at least a dozen people who are trying to create crowdfunding equity platforms, which is what I think Funderbeam is trying to be. So I guess my feedback rather than question is unbundle the two businesses. Don't try and pitch Funderbeam by beginning with Pitchcraft, or conversely, pitch Pitchcraft, in which case I like Victor's idea because I agree, Keiretsu Forum, we are beginning to try and do something like Pitchcraft so that we can patch in remote angels when we have our meetings. So we have a meeting in Seattle, but there's people in Calgary and Boise, they want to patch in. I don't think we're using Pitchcraft, but we're using something that feels quite similar. So that's my feedback. Unbundle the two businesses. Funderbeam has to be about crowdfunding of equity, and don't shackle it by trying to tell the story of Pitchcraft.
Right, and I guess my question would be like, is there anything more behind it? Is there a secret sauce or anything that kind of behind Funderbeam, or is it just a BI tool?
What do you mean by the secret source?
The way how you analyze the data behind the startup. When you get this, we already questions like kind of like startups don't want to give you the information, and investors probably don't want to buy your data. But if you take that away, how will you kind of analyze the data?
There's the metrics is the capital markets use, and we see what the capital market participants want to know about the startup market, and then we put it into the. Then we collect those data we need. There's an engine behind it, and we just visualize it. But if I may say about the Jobs Act, we've been investigating the different legislation actually, and the Jobs Act is improving quite slowly because the SEC is not elaborating their sub-acts. And we actually playing with the idea of setting the jurisdiction in Singapore because it's much more favor on the startups and on the capital market than the US is. It's just we're on the way analyzing it.
Do we have any additional feedback? I think you guys gave a lot of feedback.
I'm having a bit of a struggle trying to work this, but I think eventually I'm getting.
Are you investing now?
I did. I think I accidentally invested twice. Because I couldn't tell that I had already invested. So,
Right.
a generous. Well, yes, because I'm a generous guy.
Applause, Academy.